Welcome to the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Geisel. I am a human design and relationship coach, 6'2", manifesting generator, and total lover of life. If you want real solutions to real life problems, then you are in the right place. This podcast is dedicated to using human design, ancient teachings, and DNA activation to elevate both your relationship with yourself and the people around you. If you are willing to take action on the practical steps given in this podcast, I promise your life will change for the better. All you have to do is open your heart and mind, step beyond your fear, and activate the courage needed to create a life that you're excited to live. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and we are so glad that you're here for another episode of the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. We are excited to bring you Cassie Parlotto today. She is a self-help junkie, a yoga enthusiast, and holistic wellness advocate. She owns a yoga studio in Georgia, and she just brings a wealth of experience, and her passion for yoga, meditation, and holistic wellness allows us to have such a fun and insightful conversation about everything from the power of investing in yourself and how difficult it can be to pull the trigger on things like that, why it's so important to connect to the feeling of the things that we're going after, and rediscovering our joy and our playfulness. And just, we go deep into authenticity and navigating growth journeys and all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm really excited for you to hear this episode. Yeah, I know that you're going to pull so much from it. So let's dive right in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. I'm so excited because I have Cassie here with me. Cassie and I met it must have been 2021, I think so. In a women's group. Yeah. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited. Cassie was one of those people. You always have those people when you are, and this is the power of groups and masterminds and being parts of things, is that you get introduced to people that you would never have met otherwise, and I think that was one thing that, as much as people, I think, are craving in-person stuff right now, that was one thing in 2020 and 2021 with COVID that I thought was actually a really beautiful thing that came out of it, was these connections that you just have to believe they're soul connections, because how did this happen?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And it's so interesting that you join those groups and you have such deep connections, like almost immediately. I think I remember thinking, this Stacey, who is she? I need to be friends with her. So yeah, it was beautiful.
I always loved it because Cassie always shows up with her bright pink lipstick, and it is like a signature thing for you. And I love it. For a while there, people would associate me with earrings. Like, I would have the best, most fun earrings. And what's weird is that I've been really sensitive to earrings lately. Like, I can't wear them. So I don't know what the meaning behind that is, but maybe it became too much of my identity. I have no idea. But okay, we're going to get started. So first I'm going to just start with 3 really fun questions, and then we're going to go.
Sure.
I used to ask like 7 and I never made it through them. So because we would just start talking about something else. So 3 really fun ones, and then we'll kind of go into a little bit more about your story, maybe some of the struggles that you've had, different things. So first one, where is your favorite place that you've traveled?
Oh gosh. I've been fortunate enough to visit a lot of really cool places, but I think the one that was most impactful for me was going to Morocco, actually on a ladies trip. I don't know if you know Gala Darling, but she hosted a women's thing. I want to say it was 2017 in Morocco. And I think it was the first time I had been just so jarred out of my own culture that everything was just different and new and just vibrant. And I was just shell-shocked the whole time. It was just beautiful.
Can I ask see, this is what happens. This is my problem.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm going to do it anyway. So what inspired you to go on this girls trip? What inspired you to just kind of like, what inspired that trip? Like, to go?
Yeah, it was actually, so I had just gotten remarried. I had gotten married for the second time the previous year in 2016. And I think I was at a place in my life where it was like I kept wanting to do things, but there were always excuses why I couldn't do it. And I had never been on a girls' trip before. I had never spent money on myself
Mm.
and, just went and did it. And so I kept, when it came up, I like had this draw to it and I really wanted to do it, but I kept making excuses of why I can't. And finally I talked to my husband about it and he's like, just go. You have the money, you can go. It's fine, just do it. So I think for me, it was just the first time I was like, there's this thing that I want to do, and it's not selfish of me to do that thing. So, yeah.
That is amazing. And I feel like every person who's probably listening to this podcast can relate, especially women. I find from my own
Yes.
experience and working with women, there is so much resistance to spending money on
Yes. On
you.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see it and you start to notice it in like really small places where you'll go into a store and you'll buy your kids or your husband or whatever all these things and then women head straight to the clearance rack. And
Yes. Oh gosh.
yeah. Oh, and it is really it's really interesting and it does, impact how worthy we feel in a lot of our life. And so what's funny and what I hear is everybody always thinks these small things happen in their life and I'm air quoting small, or these things happen and they might not even be small, but they hold so much more meaning than we could ever imagine. Like that one for you was really like taking back your worthiness and saying, I deserve this, which probably shifted your life in a lot of ways thereafter.
Oh, absolutely. And so I think from that, like when it came up, these groups, like I joined that group where I met you, I've joined some other groups. And these times when I've spent money on myself, I have never once regretted it. And
Mm.
most times it's been probably some of the most transformational things that I've done in my life. And so I just can't imagine who I would be without taking that initial step and saying, yes, I can do it. I'm worth it. I can spend money on my family, but I can spend money on my own self as well.
Yeah, it's an and, right? And I think that that's
Yes.
the mentality that sometimes we get caught up in is it's almost like we have to choose. And nobody's asking you to choose. It's and your family gets to, these things and you get these things. So that just gave me chills. That was really and it's funny because I'm actually working with a client right now. And about 5 months ago, she didn't even know that something her soul wanted so much was to buy her own home. Like she had been living and she was divorced and then she'd been living in a property that was shared with somebody else. And we did this exercise and it came up that she wanted her own damn backyard. Okay. This is literally what came up. And so, which is funny. So she just closed on this house a couple of weeks ago. She found this house and it just all happened really fast. And going back to what we were talking about these moments that transform us, I told her, I was like, this house represents so much more than you can even imagine because she is, I want to say 65. So again, there's no time limits on these things, right? And she is just, I'm like, there's so much that's going to transpire because of the confidence and the things. And you like this house just, it represents so much more than I bought a house. It's a new level of your life that you are unlocking through this external material thing.
Yeah, it's like it's never about the thing. It's more about the mindset and the beliefs that you carry with it. When you change your mind saying, yes, I am worthy. Yes, this desire that I have, it's just what I want and that's okay. And so when you say, yes, I can have it, it not only opens you up to receive that thing that you actually want, but so many other things in life as well, because you've shifted your mindset. And so now you are coming to the world from a different place and you're open up to so much more.
It's so true. And that's, it's one of those things, even when people work on their health and you own a yoga studio, right? So when we're going to talk about that, because I'm pretty sure this is a really fun story as to how you ended up with a yoga studio. So we're going to get there, but it's the same thing. It's not really. And I always, when I was doing health coaching and nutrition coaching, it was never about how your body actually looked. That wasn't the thing. It was changing the belief that you were worth the time and the energy and that confidence first through like being able to stick to something and do that. It just exudes through you. It doesn't really matter if you ever lose the weight or not. And it's that feeling that you have, like, I can conquer the world. Like, I can do this and it's powerful.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've seen in my life is like when there's something that I want, this tangible thing, it's usually not the thing that I want. It's what you just said. It's the feeling. What is the feeling you're trying to accomplish? What are you trying to bring to this situation? And then when you can identify that feeling and, come to that situation like, okay, well, how can I be more at peace? How can I feel more confident? How can I, whatever that feeling is, when that's your goal, it opens you up to 100 other different ways that you can achieve that same feeling instead of that just one thing that you had been fixating on.
Yeah. And I love that advice. And so for anybody who is, there is a certain something that you want, a certain material thing that you're looking for. One of the things that I always do with clients that brings a lot of clarity is keep asking yourself why, and just go like they call it like the 5 whys, right? Why do I want that? Okay, well, if I have this thing, then I unlock this. Okay, well, why do you want that? And if you keep going, sooner or later, you're going to get to the fact that you want to feel free, or you want to feel confident, or you want to feel powerful, or you want to feel, we could throw 1,000 different things. It might be peace. I would just want to feel peace, and it would help me to feel that way. And you're right. And then you look at your life and go, well, there's a lot of other ways that I could start to bring that feeling today into my life and you still get to have the thing.
You sure do. Yeah, absolutely.
But you also get to feel that feeling along the way. You don't have to wait until you have the thing. And I think that that's one of our subconscious things that happens to keep us safe is, well, I can't feel happy or peaceful or this or that until I have that thing.
Yeah. And I think it actually expedites the process for you. It helps you, if you want to use the word manifest, it helps you manifest the thing quicker, because if you are already embodying the feeling that you want to have before you even have the thing, like today, in tiny little increments, you're going to draw that thing to yourself quicker, because you've already changed a behavior and you're working towards that thing. So
100%. Really cool. And you become an energetic, what they would call an energetic match for it. Yep. And then it wants to come to you rather than you needing to go out and get it. It's making its way to you, and you can trust that through all of that. So, oh my gosh, so fun. Question 1 down. Okay. Question 2 is, I was like, these are going to be quick. And here we are. Never. And I don't care. This is just, it's okay. That was a great conversation. And I think everybody is going to love it. So second question is, what is one thing that is on your bucket list right now?
On my bucket list. Gosh, it's actually hard. I do feel like I've gotten the opportunity to do a lot of things. And I actually had a conversation with my husband last night where it was like, I'm at the point where the more things that I get, even the more experiences going places, like I used to really strive for those things. But I'm at the point where it's like, I've done, not a lot, but at least a decent amount of things. And I know that those don't bring me the satisfaction that I want, or it adds a, you know, a layer of flavor and like color to my life, but it's not what brings me deep satisfaction. What
Mhm.
brings me deep satisfaction is pouring my heart into my yoga studio, loving on my family, building my relationship with my husband. So I know that's a cheesy and cliche answer, but it's my truth right now is that I'm less about like what's on my bucket list and more of investing in the things that are like right in front of me in my everyday life right now.
I don't think that's cheesy and I respect it and I love that answer. Um because it's funny. I was writing down, so at night I do a recap of my day, but then I also
Mm,
have a little gratitude journal that's three things I'm grateful for, three things, and then three things that made that day special. So
mm,
it's a little bit different. And one of the things, like, so my whole gist, right, is how the path to fulfillment and how do we feel more fulfilled in our life? Because I
mm,
believe a lot
mm.
of people feel successful in their life, but when they come to me they say something's missing. I'm like, well, what's missing
Yeah.
is how you feel about your life and what you've
Mm,
built and what you really want. There's a disconnect there. So
yeah.
but I was reflecting the other morning, and the things that were on my list that were my favorite things of the day and what I was so grateful for was my dog. So we go for a walk almost every morning, and it's one of my favorite parts of my day is my walk with Max. And he found this dirt spot, and he loves to stop and dig into it, and then he gets the zoomies like around and around and around, and then he digs again. And I was like, that was one of my favorite parts of my day. Another thing was like what I would have put on that list years ago, probably not even that many
Yeah.
years ago, would have been things like landed a new client,
Mm,
did, you know, did my, got my workout in, or it just would have been very outcome driven. And what you're
hmm.
saying,
Oh, for sure.
I want to acknowledge, because when your life starts to feel like you, like your favorite things about your day is not what you did, but how you felt about the day. And there
Hmm.
are these tiny, really seemingly tiny moments. Or, another one was my husband and I was so grateful that we were able to have a hard conversation. And I have a husband who's done enough, like who's grown in his own way. And our relationship has grown so much that he can come to me with something and we
Mm,
can talk it through and get to the end of it, and it not ruin the day or it not take forever, or, and it's just like,
mm.
so
So beautiful.
I'm just really kind of in awe by your answer, because it brings things to light. And I think it's a way for other people to look and say, maybe I don't need all of these
Mm,
things. And there is a moment when life can feel really good. And it's not that you don't think that you deserve to have all of those other things. Like if you're meant to do them, great. And
mhm.
life can feel really beautiful right where you're at. And there's seasons
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
So, oh, I love that.
Oh,
Makes me really happy.
mm.
Okay, last one. What
Okay.
was your favorite thing to do as a kid?
Oh, I love this question so much, because it's a okay, I could go down a rabbit trail here, but I'll
Go for
answer
it.
your question first, and then maybe we'll have a mini rabbit trail. But my favorite thing to do as a kid was rollerblade, and I'm from Southern California, so, you know, like, the 4 quad skates, like, nobody had those, like, nobody. So I had rollerblades, that was my favorite thing to do, and every year for my birthday, well, not every year, but most years, my request was that my mom would take me to the boardwalk. I was in San Diego, and I would ride my rollerblades. Now, my birthday is in January, and believe it or not, it does get cold in San Diego, usually on my birthday. So it was always cold and overcast, but it just brought me so much joy. I would do it. I would do it anyways. But the rabbit trail is like I've like considered like more lately, like, okay, what are the things that used to bring me joy, like when I was a kid, and like do they still bring me joy? And so I'm happy to say that I've been rollerblading now in my adult life. Just a few weekends ago, I took my boys. We went to a rink, and one had the regular quad skates and I had the rollerblades, and it's just so lovely. And it's just so fascinating to me that like the things you love as a kid are still the things that you love now. Like drawing and crafts and creating, that was like a big part of like my childhood, and those are all still things that I love today. So when I get in a funk or I feel like things are just off, I was like, can I rollerblade, can I draw, can I do these little things that I have always loved to do?
I love this. And it's funny. So rollerblading, we moved to Greenville, South Carolina, and there is a trail called the Swamp Rabbit Trail. And not everybody, okay, that's extreme. A lot of people rollerblade on this trail. And I told Andrew, I was like, please, can we go buy rollerblades? Because I want to do this. But you're right. The things for me that I've been coming back to, one is basketball. I used to I played so much basketball. It was such a joy of mine. It's one of the few things in my life that I look back and question a choice that I made to quit and to stop playing. It's also one of the moments in my life that I understand shaped who I am. And it was one of the wounds that I've had to work on in this lifetime is rejection and judgment and not feeling good enough. And so whenever I was threatened with that, I would run in the other direction. If somebody was potentially going to reject me, I will reject myself. This is something I've been working on in my own life, in therapy and different things. But anyways, so to go back to it is so fun. And I've actually been looking for potentially like a rec league, which apparently in the South, this is not easy to find for women. But I like what you're saying is so powerful. And for anybody who's listening, go back. What did you used to love to do as a kid? And you would be amazed at
you still love to do it.
You do. Riding, like I love to ride my bike. We got these electric bikes, and when I'm on it, I just feel like a child. I love my Sorel rain boots. I call them because I get to go like splash in a puddle, and Andrew laughs all the time. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm feeling invincible in these boots. Like I love the fact that I can just go run through. And so I don't know when we lose that. It's like at some point we think we're not allowed to feel that kind of joy, simple joy. When does that happen? Do you have an answer for me? Because I do. I don't.
Yeah. And I think if we go into that, we might be here all day. But I think it's like, as a child, like you're pure and, you're coming to the world like from like a fresh spot and perspective, if that makes sense. Kind of weird. But then like as you like get older and you start to like see like little bits of the world and you start believing things about the world, then it becomes more like you're protecting yourself. And maybe it's from like these friends that behave a certain way. Well, maybe those cool kids don't rollerblade or they don't do this. So like, I feel like as you start taking on these beliefs, that's when you stop doing the things that you love, or at least you second guess yourself. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, mine too. And at some point I became very serious, and it was a protection and everything was about the achievement. Everything was about the outcome with the gold star to make sure that I looked a certain way in the eyes of others. Yeah. And we start to disregard how we feel about ourselves, about our life, like that joy. And we go towards, well, what's the most important is how we look in this situation. And so, I mean, that was at least my story. I think that a lot of people can probably resonate with that. And the question is, can you start to peel back those layers and get back to that purity that you had as a kid? And from my research and from my experience, it happens all through childhood, but it's really this 8 to 10 age when our heart center we're like really working on our heart center, that we start to turn from who we are to who we think we're supposed to be.
Oh, yes.
8 to 10.
I know, it's so sad. What
Isn't
is that,
it?
middle school? Which makes sense, you're getting close to that age where, yeah.
And then we
where a
wonder
lot of
why we're
comparisons.
angry teenagers.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who we are. We've lost. We're so
Yes.
confused, right?
Oh,
I know.
sweet babies.
I know. And I know, again, I work with all types of people, but a lot of women. And this is the question and I get it because I have been here, is what do you do for fun? And anybody who's listening, most people, they struggle to answer this question, especially women. Have you found that?
Oh, 100%. I read a book a couple years ago. Is it The Power of Fun or something like that? And they're talking about like the different components of fun. So you need to get into a flow state. You need to be with other people. And I think there's a third component of fun, but one of the exercises was like listing the things that, met all three of those qualifications. And like, normally my first answer is like, oh, read a book. And it's because that's what I like to do. And it's like, well, it's fun, but it doesn't involve other people. So true moments of fun have a component of connection and community with it. So I had to like redefine like, okay, well, what is the last time I was with a group or at least one other person and I had fun? And so now I can say, a couple weeks ago when I went rollerblading with my kids, that was fun. But like, how do you bring those little things into your everyday life where it's not like, oh, every couple weeks I do a fun thing? Like, it's hard, right?
Yeah, no, I think it is. And I was actually listening to probably over last summer because we were doing a lot of traveling in our RV. So I was listening to a lot of things. And one of them was a Brene Brown thing. And she was talking about the different components of living a wholehearted life. And one of these things was fun and play. And the three qualifications were, yes, you have to lose track of time while you're doing it. You never want it to end is another one. And there's no purpose behind it. Like there's no, I'm doing this because people would say, well, I work out for fun. Well, why are you doing it? Is there really no purpose behind it? Like, and then they talked about how, what you were just saying about being with people and connecting. I'm losing, I cannot think of the word, but maybe you'll get the essence of what I'm saying at least. It was talking about how monkeys and or puppies will play and then they stop, like somebody kind of quote unquote wins and then they go right back into it and they start again and they keep doing it. And it's not competition. It's not competition, which this is something that I find fascinating because even in like kids sports, we talk about this a lot. Kids sports have become, they're not
so
play.
Competitive. Yeah.
They're no longer playful. It is competitive sport from the moment you start until I guess you either make it into college or not, or decide that you're tired of living this way. But it's that difference. Gosh, I can't think of the word. One day I'll get it. But it was just that it's not competitive, but it is you're messing with one another, but you're not really keeping score necessarily, or there's not this competitive spirit to it. And I think it's more the spirit or the essence behind it isn't, I'm going to win. Someone has to win and someone has to lose.
Yeah, I think in the book, The Power of Fun, I think they just call it playfulness. So you feel lighthearted, you feel free. You're not doing it, like you said, with like a goal in mind to like win a thing or what have you. So yeah, totally.
And I think that this is something that yeah, we get to look at in our life and how do we incorporate more play. And something I would recommend even doing as a family is if you're in a family, a relationship, whatever, is almost create each one of you kind of go through these things. What do I love to do that incorporates all of these things, and see if there's any overlap, right? That you guys can do as a family that's really fun for you, or try somebody else's version of play. Maybe you just don't know that you love to do it. One for me has been, I have taken a pottery class, and I started to take a pottery class, and this becomes, I lose track of time. I don't care what it looks like at the end. I don't care if sometimes it's a bowl, sometimes it's a cup, sometimes it's a pitcher. I actually don't know what I'm creating until the end usually, because I'm not that good at it yet. But it's still in that space where it's so playful, because I just love the fact that I created something.
Yes.
And I don't really care what it is. And we have all of my pieces in my house, and some of them are Q-tip holders. Some we use for salsa. The pitcher is my favorite thing I've created, and we haven't used it. So that's kind of funny. But it's just, it's that essence of just
it's silly.
purity.
It's fun. My husband and I planned this date, and I think I saw it like on Instagram or something like that, but where you paint each other. And so like you take like a tiny little canvas and you paint each other. So this is literally what we did for our date, and it had all the components of fun. And the paintings were so terrible, and it was so funny. Like now we have them hanging up in our house just as a remember, because we laughed the entire time because they were so bad. But yeah, it's just, connecting with like what makes you laugh, let's just be silly. Like we're just too serious all the time, like you said. So
yes,
too serious.
We are the anti-serious movement on this podcast. And it is, I think it's just something that's missing in so many people's lives, is that pure, innocent joy. And so the more you can, and experiment with it. That's what I always tell people. Like, if you don't know, make a list of everything that you think might be fun, and just start trying it. You never know. Andrew and I went and played pickleball over the weekend, and I have played pickleball a little bit, but if you've never done it and it sounds kind of interesting to you, just go see. You might absolutely fall in love with a new thing that you pottery was like that for me. I was just like, okay, because I noticed my toxic trait is I get really I can get really focused in on something, and especially work. And so I realized when I'm out of alignment in that, I can feel it. It's really a feeling that I have. Andrew can see it because I have nothing else to talk about. I am just, and it doesn't feel good. And it becomes my identity very quickly. And so that was where pottery came from, is I actually, last December, I was like, I'm taking an entire month off of work, and I'm just going to work with the people that I have, but I'm not doing anything else. And I am going to intentionally I stopped work. I got off of social media, and I went back to what might be fun for me. What is something that I can do? And I discovered a lot about myself in that month. But one of the things I also discovered was pottery, but even just the walks and how much joy that brings me to be able to walk to a coffee shop. And it's just so life can be so simple if we allow it to be.
Yeah. And the older I get, the more the simple joys bring me so much satisfaction. That walk with your dog, making a nourishing dinner with your family, talking with a friend. Like, it's not usually fancy things.
No, it's not. The other couple weeks ago, I got up on the counter and I had received this mudra deck of cards and for anybody who doesn't know what a mudra is, it's essentially a way that you hold your hands while you're in a meditation I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. Maybe you even know more about this, but it's essentially a tool. And if you're going to be meditating anyways, why not utilize the power of how your hands, they mean different things. They kind of are meant to impact different energies within your body.
Yep.
So anyway, all of that to say that Andrew, I got them in the mail, and this is kind of funny, is he said, "What do you have?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just a book or something." And he's like, "Why do you feel like you have to hide that from me?" And he's like, "What is it?" And I just showed him, and he's like, "You know, you don't have to hide anything from me. Like, you have, like, that we're way beyond that, you know?" And I just had to be really reflective. And I'm like, yeah, I still do things that hide my, like, who I am in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, we were sitting on the counter. Like, I was sitting on the counter. I jumped up on the counter. I was sitting there. And then he jumped up on the counter and we just sat there and talked and for a little while. And he's like, "Why don't we sit on the counter more often? I love this." Again, simple joys.
So fun.
So simple.
Okay, I feel like we have to go back to what you just said because, like, so you said, like, we hide who we are. And I literally also had this conversation with my husband last night because, like, part of my story has to do with, like, I was really involved in church and spirituality when I was young, but I went on my own by myself. So I got into a habit when I was at home. I didn't talk about those things that were, like, super important and meaningful for me, which was, like, my spiritual life mostly. And so I found, like, as an adult, I still do the same thing where it's like, I don't talk to my husband about, like, the weird woo shit that I'm learning about that, like, really excites me. Like, there's, like, this huge part of my life that brings me so much joy that I just don't share at home and don't share with him because I just assume he wouldn't be interested. So I just don't. And so what we've been talking about, my husband and I, is like, how do I bring more of my truth of who I am on the inside out into my everyday life and not feel like so segmented where I can be this version of myself over here at the yoga studio, but when I'm at home, I'm a different person. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want to be fully myself wherever I show up. So it's just funny you said that because I was like, we're literally just talking about this. So
yes. And this is, I mean, it's my own story and what's funny for me is I've created, and you might feel like this about your yoga studio. So is in my work, people know who I really am. I talk about all the things because they've come to me in a way. And it's like, I created a container that feels safe for me to be everything I am because I want them to feel safe to be everything they are. And I don't care what that is. I just want you to feel like you do not have to censor yourself. You do not have to hide. You do not have to be anything other than who you are. And that gets to change and it gets to evolve. And no matter what, we accept you here. And I think that this has been so much of my story of not feeling like an outsider, feeling like I don't belong, that I've created an environment that allows not only me to feel loved and accepted for everything that I am, but for other people to feel loved and accepted for everything they are. Now, what's funny and what I was going to say is that go drop me in the middle of my family. And little pieces start to shut down. We shut it down because they are comfortable with a certain version of you. And it has been and so we don't want to rock that boat, or we think, and again, why we feel like different is wrong is just an issue with our culture, right? But I find that the more, and it has taken, and it still takes, it actually takes me effort to be completely myself in situations where people that I haven't curated because I am like, oh, am I going to get rejected? Are they going to judge
Mm-hmm.
me? And I'm like, I don't actually care, because if you don't love me for everything that I am, then I don't want to be in relationships like that. Like, that's a tolerance that I don't want to have that anymore. And I'm just curious as to how you feel about that with like your yoga studio in comparison, or just anything that comes up for you.
Yes, everything that you just said is super resonating. And I do feel the same way. I feel like it's very easy to be myself, like my full self at the yoga studio. And I feel like that's probably the most authentic, if you want to say, version of me. And you mentioned your family. I certainly have that. I won't say issue, but it's like you just have patterns of behavior that you're just so used to. So it's not like even like a conscious thing, like, oh, I'm going to go and not show up as myself. It's like, no, you just slip back into who you've always been in that, in those relationships. But I find that like the closer I get to like, the more I let of my true self out, like that Cassie, the yoga studio Cassie, when I'm in other situations that I'm not myself, it's begun to feel much less tolerable. I'll put it that way, where it's like, it's more glaring, it's more obvious, it feels more off. And so it's kind of like I'm being forced to like, okay, I need to level up to who I am and be real in this situation, or I just don't want to be in this situation at all. It's my tolerance level has gone down a lot. And I don't know if that's good or bad. It feels very uncomfortable at times.
Well, I think that discomfort is normal. And I think what I want people to hear, if you feel like this, is that it takes effort, because what you're actually doing is you're being very vulnerable in being yourself. And there is a chance that people aren't going to like it. And from my experience, more people are fascinated by it than they are turned off by it. And the ones that are turned off, you just have to let that roll off your back and be okay that you're just not their flavor of ice cream. And that is totally fine, because quite frankly, if you don't have that curiosity and that open-mindedness and this wanting to learn from one another and being accepted and like wanting people to be yourself, you're not my flavor of ice cream either. So like, no thanks. And if this is something that you desire to change in your life with your partner, maybe there's a part of you that you, and I find, sometimes people show up at work one way and they show up at home a completely different way. And like,
oh, for sure.
Who is the real version of you? First of all, you need to know what is your truest essence. Where do you feel the most like yourself? And then you start to pull it in, but you're going to have to make a conscious choice in those moments that you would normally not say anything or not share something, to share it, to see, to test that water. And it's not dependent on their reaction, right? It's up to you to just keep showing up in that way and allowing this. It's really a protection, because we're afraid to let people in because we're afraid that they're going to reject us in some way, but we just are taking it too personal. It's the more I let people into my world, they might look at me a little funny. Like the other day we went for a hike with a couple of friends, and a mentor of mine once told me that every time you go into nature and you do something with nature, you need to give something back to her, because she's providing you with so much. And she's like, I mean, you could just like spit into the earth. You could take a piece of hair and put it somewhere. It's more just, it's the intention behind it more than what you're leaving behind. But I always have a thing of crystals in my backpack, and I always give one back to the earth whenever I go for a hike. And so we were with our friends and we went for a hike, and a couple of weeks ago, we went with my parents, and at the end of the hike, I told them this, and I said, and I gave them some crystals, and they're like, well, Stace, you gave them to us like in the parking lot. Like there were so many other cool places along the trail that I would have rather left this crystal, but okay, And so that was their reaction, which was comical to me. So this last week when we went with our friends, I gave it to them at the beginning. I said, okay, this is something that I do. Don't feel like you have to, but I'm going to give this to you. And if you, this is just something that I've learned, and I got in trouble a couple of weeks ago because I didn't give them to people at the beginning. And I don't even know if they did it, if they didn't do it, or what they are thinking of me. And I just frankly don't care, because this is just who I am, and I'm going to share it with you, and you get to decide what you do with that. But that's taken me a long time.
Yeah. I just finished reading the book by Martha Beck, The Way of Integrity. And she says the way to integrate that into your life is every day just be 1% more truthful, just a little bit more truthful. So if you're showing up to your job and you don't usually show up as yourself, how can you show up 1% more truthful today as yourself? And then slowly over time, like, you don't want to do it too fast because it might, shock your system and create rifts in relationships because people are just so used to a certain version of yourself. But just every day, just a little bit more truthful in each of these situations that you don't feel fully authentic.
I love that advice. Take it slow. Do one thing. And whether it be, with a significant other, if you would normally be quiet about something, share
Say
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
say it. Yeah.
Really
little
simple, little tiny things. And then before you know it, and this is Cassie just gave all of you guys the secret sauce to transformation. Okay. 1 to 2% every day. Everybody wants to go in and just change everything at once. And then you're right. There's so much resistance and turmoil, and things get uprooted to the point of discomfort that I had a mentor who used to say, you can either be a sledgehammer or a feather.
Mm.
And she looked me dead in the eye and said, you're a sledgehammer.
Oh,
and I was like,
I am totally a sledgehammer.
Ah.
Yeah,
I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? And because that used to be my approach to everything, is just get it done and get it done as quickly as possible. However, this was the next part of this, is she said, a sledgehammer will get the job done, but it leaves a lot of destruction in its wake. The feather might take a lot longer, but no one ends up harmed in the process. And I think that this is a really powerful lesson that we're talking about, is the 1 to 2% is being the feather, being willing for something to take longer so that people can slowly acclimate to your new level of tolerance in your life. And I actually have a post, and so I'm not going to talk about, but the difference between boundaries and barriers, a lot of people have barriers thinking that they have boundaries, but it's, you change something in your life, right? And next thing you know, somebody that you know says something, and you're like, no, I don't tolerate that in my life anymore. And it's just like this harsh barrier that you put up, trying to be a sledgehammer, like trying to make sure that you change this whole thing at once. Well, it's not really fair to the other person either, that yes, you've had time to kind of go through this process and understand this process, but you haven't invited them in on that process. And now you just want them to just accept and move on or get out.
Yeah. It reminds me of the quote that I reference in my own life a lot. It's 60 watts can't pass through a 30-watt bulb. So in this context, it's like, okay, if you went from 30 to 60, well, you're probably going to blow yourself out. It's not going to be a sustainable change, but you're also going to blow out your relationships as well. Whereas if you just started where you're at today, not necessarily where you want to be in a year, and you just make those small changes, you are that feather, you're going to slowly raise that wattage until you're going to be able to hold it. But then also the people around you will be able to, well, they'll either hold it or they'll, fall away. Like, that's what happens. But you did it softly and gently. And it was probably a much more pleasant experience than if you had just tried to pass 60 watts through, where you're at now, which is not at 60 watts. So,
I I love that quote and that analogy. I think that's really powerful. And I actually want to touch on something that you said and get your thoughts, because I think in personal transformation and personal evolution, one of the most frightening things is what you said. Some people fall away. And
Ooh,
it's
yes.
so scary, because when you start to change, I always say people rise to the occasion or they run. Like they either come with you or they run in the other direction. And how, in your own life or from your experience, how do you navigate that, knowing that, because I know in my life, at least, people I thought for sure would be around are no longer around, and people I never saw coming are some of the closest people to my heart. But how do you be okay with that? How have you navigated that?
Yeah, I'll just say it's been hard. But to go back to a previous analogy, the ice cream one that you mentioned earlier, like if you keep showing up as vanilla and you're not really vanilla, and you start like, okay, well, I'm actually a little bit of strawberry and maybe I have a little bit of chocolate chips, you're just not going to be their flavor anymore. And so they're just going to stop like coming and like taking part of like that relationship, because that's just not who you are. So I think just acknowledging like, hey, if you haven't been showing up as yourself, this is like on you. Like if you haven't been showing up as yourself and you're starting to, like some people just don't like strawberry and they liked vanilla, and that's okay. It's just allowing the truth of the situation to be, even when it's hurtful, and just allowing the hurt. Like, hey, I'm now strawberry and I thought you would, be along with me on this journey, but I realized that that's not actually your flavor. And so, yeah, I've had friendships fall away. Even I mentioned my husband, like we're going through our own transformation in a very positive way, where it's like I'm continually having to show up as like my true self. And like, thankfully, I have a gracious partner, but like there's still a lot of fear there. I'm like, what will happen? Like, will it ever be too much for him? Will I ever be too much for him? Will I ever be too much for this friendship? Am I ever too much for my family? Yeah, but for me, I just keep going back to like, what's the truth for me? And I think also another scary aspect of it is like, you might think that you're strawberry and you're like, okay, I'm showing up as myself. But what if that changes? Like, you might not even know where you're headed. And we probably don't. And at least for me, it's a continual uncovering. And so it's like, just being okay with the unknown is like, I don't know, it's very hard.
Yeah. And knowing that there's going to be parts of your life that some people, I think it's a lot of it is not taking it personal. And
It's not personal.
It's really hard, because it's like, but it's me, like, but it is personal, and no, it's not that they're bad or you're bad. It's that there's truth to energetic frequencies. And when you start to go to a different frequency and they don't want to come with you, you just don't match anymore. And that also doesn't mean that it will never match. Right.
Yeah.
And like what you said, and I want to touch on this too, because I think that anybody who has gone through some sort of personal evolution, and that's what I consider it is an evolution, because you're right. The amount of people that my husband has been married to, and he's only been married once, is fascinating, right? Because I have become such a different iteration of myself. And we got married young. I was 21, he was 23. And so over the last 15 years, I would never want to be the same person that I was when we got married. And I wouldn't expect him to be. And I was actually talking to a friend yesterday, and I said, at what point does it become not okay to change? Right? I feel like we've put some sort of imaginary number on it, and I don't know what it is, but so many people would look back and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm not the same person that I was when I was 21. Or, oh, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Or they would say, even our parents would say, I'm so glad you're not how you were when you were a teenager anymore.
Yeah.
And then at some point, people go, you've changed. As if it's a bad thing. Like, what is this number? Where is this imaginary line that we have drawn in the sand that like, it's okay to change. It's okay to change. It's no longer okay to change.
Well, I think it's what their expectations are, right? So as long as it's comfortable for them, they're okay with the change. But when it becomes uncomfortable or it's confronting in some way, that's when it's like, oh, wait, you've done change, you changed. Like that's when that conversation happens. So like, yeah, you're right, I have, and I feel like I've become more myself. I feel good. I feel more happy, more joyous, and so, yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. And Andrew and I have been through it, and there were moments that I didn't think we were going to make it. I would think he would say the exact same thing, that it was so much. I was going through all of these changes, and he's trying to keep up. But there was also a big part of my life, and it's exactly what I was saying earlier, that I didn't include him in on the little changes. And so then it felt like this massive shift and change that he had to get used to. And I didn't have the patience because I had already been through it. But he hadn't been through it. And so it is that if you let people in, the earlier, the better. You're going to find out one of two things, whether they are for you or whether they're not, and I think we try to hide it because we want to be sure. Well, what if I decide to go back to that type of person? Well, we want people in our lives that are going to be part of the entire journey and see all of that. And if we don't, and we're hiding ourselves, and so this is something I want you to think about too. If you're hiding yourself, you're building a relationship based on lies, and it's just going to end up in bitterness, resentfulness, anger. Like there's nothing good that can come out of a relationship based on lies, because you hold yourself down enough, at some point you're going to look for someone to blame, and it's probably going to be the person closest to you.
Oh, 100%.
But like, it's on you, babe. You didn't show up.
Yeah, the friction will show up with your partner or your best friend or this person or that person, but it's really you. It's that you didn't show up as yourself. And then when you decided to, it's like, are you like offended that, now you're all of a sudden yourself, and like they've gotten, used to a different version of you, where if you had been a little bit more gentle with it, if you had been that feather, if you had just like slowly started like living your truth authentically, then I feel like you have a much greater chance of bringing those people along with you.
It's so true. And it goes back to what you said about the integrity. And integrity is a huge core value of mine. And so it's, how honest can you be along the way, and just not like yourself and the people around you. And just the more you share and lean into that honesty and that truth, the better your relationships are going to be. They're going to be so much more fun, and they're going to be powerful, and connection. Like, there's going to be this amazing connection between you. And if your relationships aren't like that, I would urge you to take a look and say, am I even sure who I am? Right. And maybe start diving into that work, like discovering some more things about yourself. And two, are you actually letting them in? Because there's a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it is about a team, like a business team. However, it's relevant in our own life. But it says that the base of any team, and I think when I work with people in relationships, I'm like, you're a team, right? You're a team. That's what we have to consider it. The base of it is trust. And trust is being completely vulnerable, being authentic, trusting people with not just their job, but your heart. And if you don't have that, then the next one is conflict. You're afraid of conflict. And the next one is, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose it. But it's just kind of this pyramid, and I'll have to reference it somewhere. But it's that you never build a strong team if you can't even do the bottom one. And we're expecting, and then we, strong teams, there's conflict involved, and doesn't mean that it has to be ugly.
Yeah.
But there's friction, because in every good relationship, there needs to be, in order for the point of relationships is for us to continuously grow and become, and I don't even like the word grow. It's more become your truest essence. And if you don't have somebody to challenge you as to how you're showing up, then we don't get to do that. So just that reminder of, it doesn't have to be a lot. And ultimately you get to choose, and we don't get to blame the people around us for us not showing up the way that we want to.
Yeah.
Okay, Cassie. Well, we didn't talk about the yoga studio, and we're going to have to do,
okay.
maybe we'll do like another episode, or, I want to do because I feel like there's so many things I want to talk to, but with certain guests, I want to bring them on and do like a little side not even quick, we'll see what happens, but on Patreon, and just kind of dive into more stuff. But this has been I think this is an amazing conversation. I hope people have taken so much out of this, but I always end with one question. And that is, what is one lesson you feel like you're in the middle of learning right now, or like an area of your life you're giving some extra love to at the moment?
I think we've already touched on this, so it's very easy answer, and that's just keep showing up as myself. Just be a little bit more truthful every day in all areas of my life. At the yoga studio I mentioned is very easy. It's a little bit harder for me at home. I also have a day job, so like showing up truthfully there as well. Like, how can I just slowly just be more truthful? That's the lesson I'm in right now.
I love it. And so I love the power of this conversation. I hope, and I'm sure that there's so many people out there that can relate and know that we are still in it. I hope when everybody who's listening understands that both Cassie and I are in the middle of this same thing, and it is a constant journey. And so if you are in the middle of this, or you feel like you haven't even started, or whatever that looks like, it's a gift. It's a gift to everyone around you. And even the ones that may fall away, there's people that are their flavor of ice cream that they get to bring it into their life once we kind of exit. And so just don't be afraid of the consequences of being yourself, because there is so much freedom on the other side of that.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Cassie. I appreciate you being on and sharing your wisdom with the Evolve Beyond Limits community. It means the world to us. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.